You welcome everybody to another episode of the M365 FM podcast, the podcast where we look and speak with Microsoft professional architects, consultants, developers, IT leaders, and decision makers. And yeah, we try to learn directly from every people in the Microsoft and from the Microsoft technologies. Today's guest, I think it's someone who not really needs an introduction in the Microsoft community. My guest is Mark Smith, also known as the NZ365 guy, has been a Microsoft MVP for 15 years or over 15 years, Microsoft certified trainer, founder of Clover Base, author of the Microsoft Press book, Microsoft 365 Copilot Adoption, creator of the global successful 90 Days Mentoring Challenge, and the host of the of a podcast. I think you have renamed it from the Intelligent Age podcast to Microsoft Innovation Podcast. With more than 800 episodes and published since 2017. Over the years, Mark has helped thousands of professionals understand Microsoft technologies from Dynamics 365 and Power Platform to today's rapidly evolving world of AI, Copilot, and intelligent agents. Recently, his focus has shifted toward one of the most exciting areas, enterprise AI. AI software factories and OpenClaw, where multi AI agent collaborate to design, build, and test, deliver software ways could fundamentally change how organizations create digital solutions. Yeah, welcome, Mark. It's so amazing to have you here.
Thank you, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So we flip the sides. Normally, you are the host. So, um, Mark, can you a little bit tell us how you become a part of the Microsoft ecosystem?
Yeah, that's interesting. That started 30 years ago, so a long time ago. I was working for a company at the time that um, was involved in IT training. It was a company called New Horizons, which was headquartered in California. And I joined a company at that time that had the New Zealand franchise of that IT company. And I joined it because I wanted to learn web design. That was my goal. The company I was working for, which was in the medical industry at the time, um, I decided that we needed a website and started down that path. And back then, um, if you didn't have a super light, as in from a file size on your website, you got criticized severely from the market. And so, that was HTML, CSS back then. You had to learn the whole everything in building sites. And so this company advertised that they had a web design course that you could do over the course of a week, a full intensive, 6 hour a day type web design course. And remember, this is at the burgeoning of the internet. Back then, Google wasn't even a thing. It was the search engines were Alta Vista and, what was the other one? As in, uh,
Fireball and
Yahoo! Yeah, really, really old, tech back then, and that was the start for me, and I joined sorry, I signed up to do this course, and then they told me that the course didn't exist, that they were aspirational and wanting to teach the course, and so from that, I joined the company, and as a salesperson of the training, and I sold the first 12 seats. It was a 12-seat classroom. I sold the first 12 seats, and we still didn't have a trainer. And so then they put me on train the trainer out of the US. I had to work through the night. I learned the web design course as the trainer, and then the next week I delivered to the 12 students, individual students that I'd sold onto the course. So, and that was the start of it. That was my start into IT at the time. Really big. The big thing to get was by that at that point, Novell was, switching over to Microsoft being the big player in network operating systems. NT4 is what I started on from um, a tech perspective, and I was just immersed in it then for 7 years. I taught courses on I ended up teaching, like, a 5-day course on internet working, which covered everything around, how packets move across the network, how they function down the OSIRM, and which basically means how they get from your screen to the other side of the world. What's all the routes? What is DNS? What is all the things that make the network infrastructure work? And that was, my journey. I mean, I got exposed massively to Microsoft tech. At the time, I also bought Sun Microsystems into the company, and I won a big contract for delivering all Sun Microsystem system training. By that point, I'd moved into management, and I became the general manager of the company over that 7 years, from starting off as the salesperson to getting into that position. And really, I've been with Microsoft ever since.
Yeah, you have worked across Dynamics, Power Platform, Copilot AI. How has your own career evolved alongside the Microsoft transformation?
So it was I at this training company. Our CRM was built on FoxPro. Now, just to give you an idea, that means it was never designed to use a mouse on it. It was designed to use keyboard shortcuts and key combinations. It was um, it was designed pre-email. So you think there wasn't even an email address field? Well, not pre-email. It was never designed for email because email wasn't even a mainstream kind of construct then. Everything was phones. It was all around calling people, getting people on the phone, and our draw card was you offered a 1 day free training. And you're got to remember, this is the start of all tech. It was the start of using Word and Excel and PowerPoint. And I mean, our most popular course was Excel training. A 2 day Excel training course was the most popular course. But we I was looking for a CRM that was a bit more modern, and the company, the parent company, New Horizons, wanted to go with a product called Sales Logics back then,
Oh,
and Microsoft had just bought out MS CRM. And it started as MS CRM 1.0 in 2003. It started 2003, and by November 2003, it was MS CRM 1.2. And then they skipped 2 entirely and went to, 3, and that's when the Dynamics name started to kick into play, and that was because they had bought other, more ERP-related products into the suite, and that BizApp suite, and, I gotta say, I just fell in love with the tech, and for me, it wasn't about, like, I saw beyond the vision beyond CRM systems, which is to be able to build any type of system. And really, that was the original low code system that I touched from a Microsoft perspective. And you think SharePoint was only just coming out around the same time. It was, the very new SharePoint and content management systems at that time. They were all brand new things as well. I mean, our mobile phones were brand new. Like, it was a big deal to be able to get the web browser to work on your mobile phone back then. And so yeah, it's been a long journey in tech, and so I've ridden the uh, Dynamics CRM and then Dynamics 365 journey right up till 10 years ago. But over 10 years ago now, Power Platform kicked in, and so rode that journey. But one thing I've always observed about the smart people that work inside Microsoft, they always move to where Microsoft is investing the money. And if you've just watched this space for a little while, they're not really investing it in Dynamics 365. They're not really investing in the Power Platform. And I might
mm,
get some hate from that, but read the writing on the wall. Look at the
mm,
people that have left Microsoft in recent times. Look at the product teams that they've been involved in. The day of low code has been superseded by AI. And
mm,
that I can do a lot more with a lot deeper technical functionality and technical ability, and I low code just slows me down. A UX that's or a UI, sorry, that's in the way slows me down. I'd much rather be at a CLI level. I'd much rather be at a prompt level, MCP API level to drive the results that I want than spend hours wasted on configuration screens to try and make the software perform how I want it to perform.
yeah. Um, what was has you One was the moment you realized AI would fundamentally change software development.
I mean, the day, uh, ChatGPT became a thing in November 2022, I got it that day, right? I'm on Reddit, I'm on, X, I never left X, from the Twitter days when a lot of people did, and so I heard about it, and I was on it that day, and I called my wife over and said, "Whoa, check this out," what I
Mm,
was able to do. Now, at that point, Microsoft had already done the deal about 2 years earlier with OpenAI to acquire the IP, and, I can remember Charles Lamanna talking about the initial versions of GPT and in regards to PowerFX and things like that, and I started really getting interested in AI, I suppose, around 2018 when I was in London. And
mhm,
particularly, Google were doing some great things, and I always saw that what Google was doing was, um, academic AI. In other words, it was like awesome stuff, but like, how do I use it, right? No, and what I saw from Microsoft at those early days, and this is pre-GPT, so this is back 2018, 2019, and so really much more around ML and cognitive services and things like that. Microsoft was starting to really, what I call, created practical AI. In fact, they might have even been calling it practical AI, like AI that really could move the dial in your business. And so, that's where I started getting excited about it. I started writing blog posts. In fact, I'm sure you can go on my blog and find posts on AI from 2018 where I was writing and exploring, and I was interviewing people on my podcast that were in AI, particularly across Europe at the time because I was in the UK. And then, but it was, I suppose, um, there was an MVP session, like an MVP summit that it was in COVID. And so it's still locked down. We couldn't travel from memory. Well, they just at the last minute allowed travel into the US at the end of the COVID type run. And Charles Lamanna got on stage and talked about, um, Copilot inside of the Power Platform and your ability to just speak into creation. And while he was doing it, he said, and by the way, in your MVP tenant, it's there available. And so while he's presenting, I'm on my laptop and I built an app while he's talking to manage seeds. And, I've got a big garden, I've got a syntropic forest that I'm building, and so, and one of the things I wanted to do is like, when's the optimal time to plant seeds? If for any type of species that I was wanting to plant, what was the best conditions, etc. And I was able to prompt that app into reality while he was doing the presentation. And for me, it was like I could see the future and where it was going to go. And so I haven't been a Dynamics 365 or Power Platform MVP for uh 2, 3 years now. So I pivoted first into, the next category I went into was AI platforms at Microsoft, and then in the last renewal cycle, I've actually gone into Copilot, and that's because, writing the book, as you said, on Copilot adoption with my wife, has taken that pivoting journey, and they switched AI platform MVP just to, Foundry MVP, and you know, bless Microsoft, but they get so enamored with their own product names that they forget that it means nothing in the market. And so, I wasn't too much of a fan of being a Foundry MVP because you had to explain it to everybody what it meant. And so I'm happy to go to Copilot because at least I think it has a higher profile. But also, in more recent times, I have got heavily into AI outside of Microsoft. And because I fundamentally feel Microsoft has lost its way in the last 3 years in the AI space as a whole. It went from a absolute, when if you look at November going into, the new year, calendar new year in 2023, I think there was a graphic that came out at that time showing Microsoft had a 64% market share in AI, because of its relationship to OpenAI and the assets that it already had in Azure. And unfortunately, my observation, Microsoft was always good at chasing the market leader. They've never, ever, ever, in my estimation, and I'm happy to be proved wrong, although it's irrelevant, they're not good at playing lead and owning and demanding a space. And I'll give you like 3 or 4 examples. There was Novell NetWare, then NT4 came out, and Microsoft dominated and ultimately took over that space. There was Lotus 123, right? Spreadsheets.
Mm,
Excel dominated that space, took the market share. Word Perfect, Word. Even let's go into gaming, right? There was PlayStation from Sony, and then Microsoft jumped in with Xbox. So they're good at chasing a category. They don't seem to be good at leading a category. And what I feel that's happened in the last 3 years, their sales org, their marketing org, and even their R&D or product teams just went after the wrong goals.
mm,
They didn't have clarity. They just thought if we chuck the name Copilot on everything and force it down people's throats that people will adopt. And of course, at the start of this year, the data came out in the earnings report that something like 3.4% adoption of Copilot globally, which is,
mm,
if you're a startup, that was a multi-billion dollar business, I think about a $4 billion business. Nice. But you're the
mm,
biggest company in the world at the time, right? That's not good enough. That's not how the
yeah.
game's played when you're the biggest company in town. And so I feel that they have lost their way. Now, one thing I'll credit Microsoft, they tend to play a long game, right?
Mm,
And so they will iterate and probably, ultimately get this right. But right now, they aren't. They're playing catch up. They're playing follow me. Anthropic releases co-work. Oh, now Microsoft's on a deal with them because hey, this is the latest shiny thing. OpenClaw becomes a big deal. Then we've got Scout, and I'm just like, and then they've released 3 or 4 models, the Maya models, and on the announcement at Build, they're nowhere near on par with what's in market even now. They're like 4 or 5 like, the open models are ahead of them, and I know that that's the start, and they will probably win long term with this strategy, but I didn't wanna be held up with only drinking Microsoft's Kool-Aid for this AI era, so I have gone deep into Anthropic, I've gone deep into OpenAI, I've gone deep into OpenClaw. I have 9 different APIs into other models, so, like, I use Chinese models, I use European models. I don't wanna be restricted to only one flavor, or only one dish on the menu.
mm. Yeah, yeah, I think that's really interesting. I think also the start of Copilot was really, really bad start because it's don't feel like an AI. It feels like Clippy is back. It only
Yeah.
says you okay.
Yeah, I mean, and look how much it got mocked,
Yeah.
and for that exact type of thing, and I think what they did is they didn't use the latest models from day one. They always used behind, and so people were getting this AI experience in market with the consumer type, apps,
Mm,
and Microsoft just sucked in comparison, and their only kind of story was, "Hey, it's on your data," but nobody was experiencing the value of it being on your data, and another thing is companies' data estates are so bad and full of so much human error duplicated thousands of times that what happened is that the results weren't great even if it's on your own data because accounting had sent that spreadsheet out for the last 5 years every week and there's like 500 or 1,000 copies of that spreadsheet all with the same formula error, all with the same formatting error, whatever other error, and then you go, AI, look at this and give me the correct answer, and it goes, well, your pattern is full of human error, and so I'm just gonna copy it, and then everyone gets upset about hallucination and AI sucks and stuff, and I'm like, "It's just trained on bad human data."
mm. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a real big topic. But have you also tried the Microsoft models? I think it's P4 and Myra.
So it's Myra as in I'm building a product at the moment as an ISV that I am only using the Myra models because I want it to be economical for the people that buy this product, and I want it to 100% sit in Microsoft's ecosystem, in other words, on their infrastructure. with
mm,
no inference being handled off to a third-party AI model. And the
mm,
reason is trust. Microsoft has created a good trust profile with their customers.
mm,
And, right now, if you're using Copilot and you're using Opus 5, for example, if you go, move away from the auto selector and choose your model in Copilot, the compute or what's happening there is not even being done on Azure infrastructure. It's been handed off to AWS infrastructure. It's been computed outside Microsoft's ecosystem and been handed in. Same for
yes,
cowork. It's not being computed on Microsoft's infrastructure. And so but for a lot of regulated industries, that's a problem. Data sovereignty, that's a problem. It's not operating in my local data center. And even, I'm in a little country called New Zealand. We have got no AI infrastructure by the hyperscalers in country, save um, AWS about 3 months ago put a bit of infrastructure in. So they're really the first mover, even though Microsoft has its own data center in country. There's just not enough silicon to go around. And and New Zealand, 5 million people total. We've got more sheep than we have people. It's not like a prime market where they're gonna make a lot of money on AI, so I can see why it's not here. But it changes the profile in a regulated industry where, let's say, the government says you're not allowed to send financial data outside the borders of the country. That creates a problem for people, and
mm,
in the financial or regulated industry. So therefore, even Copilot, can be difficult unless they, lock down and say we don't want Anthropic in the mix.
mm,
Let's make it just GPT that's running on Azure, and
mm,
having that control.
mm. Yeah, yeah, I know it. I live in Europe. We
Yeah.
love regulations.
Yeah, what I mean, just at the first of this month, new rules kicked in the, EU AI Act, right? Now, new penalties just kicked into play on the 1st of this month, so you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. It's a really really hard topic here. Um, what? Uh, I think you have this word AI software factories. What does this mean?
Yeah, so an AI software factory, over my career, I've had, teams of developers work for me, on software projects. So I've had my architects, I've had developers, I've had my QA testing teams, and my project managers that, have run the team. And I've always loved the concept of DevOps, although I've really struggled to ever see it fully implemented in the organizations I have been in. And that's partly because I've always worked for partners, and you really don't run a DevOps for another customer. The whole idea is it's an in-house operational thing between the developer side of your organization or engineering and your business. And so what I did is I sat down and I said, could I construct in my case, it's now a 9 agent team that each one fills a role in the DevOps infinity loop, and they are gated. They can't do any work outside their role. So, I have Arc, and Arc is my architect. I have Scout. My Scout is my takes requirements, and so it has a formalized requirements gathering process that it goes through with me. Hands it to Arc. Arc, has to go out, is very deterministic, and very many elements I put into is about how they research. They're not allowed to just start riffing on something without showing that they have researched it. And so one of the kind of parts of the scaffold I have in place is I require them to always look at today's date, and then they have to research the latest finding in whatever I'm doing. And
Mm,
so I don't want historic, "Oh, 3 years ago, this is how it was done, and that's why I'm architecting this way." Hell no, right? It's gotta be, how would we do it if we were starting today from scratch? How would the architecture look? And then, it goes through. I've got Cody does the actual code development. Now I've got different models that are doing different that power these different agents. I have
mm,
Tara. Tara is my, um engineering manager. She's the orchestrator across all of them. She makes sure they hand off. I've built in Ralph, what's called Ralph loops, which is make sure that they keep going till they solve, because agents often will go, or that they will stop and ask just a benign question, but that stops them. I want to get up in the morning and a piece of software that I've spec'd is built and it's now ready for me to get demoed. It's gone through its test cycle. I have a security, a role that is security. It uses Microsoft's red teaming resources as part of that. It does a red teaming process on my release cycle. It goes to Rex, my release manager. It goes to Wiki that does all the documentation for it. So it's this continuous loop. And then recently I built a maintenance system in that it's always checking the security posture of my environment. Oh, by the way, all this runs on Azure. I run the entire thing on Azure and I've got a lot of Azure resources coming into the mix now. You know, I've started to have to add in blob storage. I've had to start adding in. You know, you quickly find API key management becomes unwieldy. I think I'm over 300 API keys now. You don't want to be managing those manually, and you never want them to be in plain text format, right? Because it's a security vulnerability. And then what would often happen if they weren't encrypted, you would get an AI model that would output a key to screen and go, oops, 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 we need to rotate the keys because I fucked up type thing. And then I'd be like, well, how do I stop the AI making these stupid mistakes? And so, you know, you use things like Key Vault, you encrypt, you abstract away, and this is all the learnings. But now I've got to kind of I use DevOps to sorry, I don't use DevOps. I use GitHub to run all my repos. The agents have what's called app level access to those, so I can see the identity of who's doing what. Across those, I use the project management board inside the company profile, so it spans all my repos. And so I can get a real-time dashboard. What cards, what tickets been worked on? Are they, you know, at what stage of that DevOps cycle are they in? I've built multiple dashboards that I built a full routing tool for all my AI models, and so it has a price comparison. At the moment, it's selectable by agent. My next build I'm going to make is I'm going to make it route based on task. So in other words, it's going to choose the API or the LLM that it's going to use based on the task that it's actually doing. And so this is all around cost optimization of the models. And so now I'm starting to build. And the crazy thing is, the first bit of software I built was back in January, and it was because my kids' local school wanted to run a fishing competition as a fundraiser, and someone told them that I knew something about AI. And my girl had only just started, 5 years old, started at school, and so they said, "Yeah, here's the paper that we used to run this competition. It's been running for 25 years, this fishing comp."
Mm.
And I used AI to build out a full uh, dashboard for at the event to be displayed on screens. I did apps that people out on their boats when they're fishing could measure and weigh and photograph their fish for catch and release. I built this whole thing myself, and it kind of stunned what I could do, you know, and all that kind of my whole IT career, I've gone from being the lead of teams and stuff to not to being able to just build myself, have an idea. I'm always an ideas person, so I'm now able to quickly take an idea, iterate it into a production-based app. And so the the um the software factory is, you know, at the end of the day, a DevOps team with Ralph loops and very segregated role functions to make sure, you know, I always one of the even the commands I said you can never mark your own homework. A developer can never say my shit's awesome, right? It has to be verified by, in my case, Vera. She's my verification, and she's got a whole over 20 different release patterns that it must comply with before the PR will go through. And so, yeah, I've it's amazing what you can build once you start bringing, if you like, all your career experience together, knowing how software is developed, and then being able to go, "Hey, what if I made every single role an agent? What would that look like?" And it's been fun. I've built a lot of software in the last 6 months.
Yeah, yeah. I also have done a lot of an AI factory, Azure Factory. I don't know. They renamed it every time.
Yeah.
Um, uh, and that's really amazing. I have built an yeah, a research tool with thousands of companies and all the employees. And my idea was uh, do a research for cybersecurity,
Mhm.
uh, give all the best practices to the companies, and they have started perfectly. And then look, where did the cybersecurity risk come from? And I have checked this, and yeah, you can ask every company and every user some questions, and then it makes yeah, simulate a whole yeah or enterprise yeah whole companies, and that's really cool what you can build. But um, how autonomous actually agents from your perspective?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Autonomous, or autonomous, yeah. How autonomous are these agents today from your perspective?
So I have chat interfaces to about half my agents. So Tara, for example, is my interface. I have a direct chat interface to her, and then she oversees the entire DevOps team. I don't have any direct interfaces with those individual DevOps teams. I can speak to any of them, but I speak through Tara to them. And so because as I say, there's so much to learn. How do you handle memory? How do you make, the difference between short-term memory, medium term and long term memory? That's a whole thing you've got to sort out with your systems. That's why I spend a lot of time on the wiki side. The wiki is not for me to know what the documentation is. The wiki is so the DevOps team can refer to and know what was built 3 months, 5 months, 6 months ago and build it. My system only became autonomous when I got Ralph loops working correctly, which is this whole I need to, a Ralph loop is like / goal. If you were in one of the frontier lab type products, and the idea is you say don't stop until you sort this out, like till you have solved it, and so they will go, and so I will go. I'll wake up in the morning and I will have over 50 PR notifications from GitHub from through the night. They are working, they find a problem, Vera finds a problem in their code, she sends it back, and it goes through. Now, I do have a jump out of loop if they just keep screwing up because I don't want to wedge my VM that I've got running everything. And, I've gone through that process where they get into a out of control loop. And so in that scenario, outside of OpenClaw, I created a entity called Ruru, and Ruru in New Zealand is the name for owl. So it's the Maori name for owl, and what it does is it observes everything. It's observing my infrastructure health. It's observing all my API health, and this is the APIs that I have built. And anytime it detects something, it sends me a notification around severity. So it's looking across 20 dimensions at my level 1 layer. Level 2 is then looking for downtime, can't reach for a certain period of time. And ultimately, that goes up to Azure notifications when Ruru dies. How do I know that Ruru's died? Well, I use Azure then through their notification system to say, hey, your CPU's gone through the roof, you run out of RAM, or you run out of disk space. And by the way, Ruru hasn't phoned home, in a set frequency of time. So Ruru might be down. Now, Ruru is really about making sure I keep my system in top, peak state at any time. Because the more code you build, right, the thing that bogs you down is maintenance then of that code. And so that's why Ruru and as part of that model, it sits outside or how I've designed it outside of OpenClaw as an observer of OpenClaw and of anything that could break. And so the minute it finds a break, that it tries again, and let's say it doesn't get the response, or it can repeat or prove the issue, it then raises a ticket straight away over on my DevOps board. Tara is then on her loop, which she's looking at the board every 15 minutes. She picks up the new ticket that's arrived. She then starts handing it through the DevOps cycle. So I can have an incident overnight, but when I get up in the morning, it's solved because it's been triaged through, and the outcome's been addressed and built into the code. And so one of my drivers is around how do you create a a self-improving system. And this is a big thing with AI models at the moment, recursive self-improvement. So I take that thinking and go, okay, how can I improve my DevOps team? What's the new learnings it's going to take from the last month and improve itself for the next month's worth of work? And so the DevOps team that I created 5 months ago is far superior now than it was then because it's actually always improving itself. And I've got this maintenance layer that is always scanning things like security, best in class security, best in class architecture. I have all these different layers. And the minute it detects a maintenance issue, or I'm using, uh, a vulnerable piece of code or something like that, it then just raises a ticket straight away on the DevOps team. And their job is to research and solve it. And so my system is super stable, super secure, and
Mm,
because I'm losing all the best in class security from Microsoft, and I did that from day one. I originally built on Windows,
mm,
first VM, and I lasted 3 days until I went with a headless Ubuntu environment. And I tell you, I've never looked back. It's just, yeah. I mean, I built full RAG databases and all sorts for handling cross agent. How do you tell agents that they know other agents are involved in your business? Like, had to build the equivalent of a global address list that you'd have in real life, but for agents, so they can know who else could help me and to do something. Built hundreds of skills. I don't like to take anybody else's skills, like if there's skill marketplaces and stuff. So what I typically do is I will point my AIs at a repo where somebody's got a skill or some idea, and I'll say, research it, then go out and find five competing products and research what their nuances. And now let's plan our skill and how we'll create it. So I don't have any dependencies on anybody else's um stuff, to say politely. I don't want any risk like happened in early days in the marketplace where you're getting some, bad actors putting skills up to get, access. I've never had those issues because I don't use anybody else's skills. I always research the concept of their skill, then build it myself.
awesome. The system does the requirements gathering, architecture, UX design, coding, testing, security reviews, documentation, and deployment.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
what's your job?
My job's just keep feeding the new ideas. For example, about a week ago, I started to build a full accounting system. Um, and like accounting software doesn't spin my wheels, but I need an account. I've used a company for 15 years in my own business, called Zero. They're New Zealand's most successful company on the global stage with its software build. Probably Rocket Labs is up there challenging them now, but each year the price goes up, and accounting is accounting, right? The government doesn't change the rules around accounting all that often. If there's a change, it's just a new tax. Yet the price keeps going up for the SaaS service of kind of accounting has been done the same way in New Zealand for the last 100 years. It's probably going to be done the same way for the next period of time. And so I was just like, I'm sick of paying these SaaS fees. Why don't I build an accounting kernel that every type of business software, small business, not the enterprise, I'm not tackling that game, and I've open sourced it. Put it on GitHub, open source, only designed for New Zealand because I just want to give something back to the New Zealand market, but allow any business to point their AI at it. And it's, from the core kernel of my, what I call the New Zealand ledger, it has full CLI access, full MCP access, full API access. But it's built with the idea that agents are probably going to be the main operator of this accounting system as well as humans, where most accounting software is designed for people and accountants. But by building this core kernel, I can then allow any company to build their unique layer over the top. So if they're a project management business, they can build a management module. If they've, got warehousing, they can build a warehousing module on top. But it's going to be AI first in how it's been engineered from the ground up.
Mm, yeah, that's really cool. Awesome. Yeah, you're also an expert in open claw. what problem do you solve it?
So the big thing for me with OpenClaw, right, is that OpenAI has been the main product I have been on since November 2022. As soon as the $20 plan, I was on it. As soon as the $200 plan, I was on it. And then OpenAI started to make some really dick moves in the market, just fumbles back in 2025. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go deep on Anthropic. So I went deep on Anthropic January this year, February, and then Anthropic starts shooting itself in the foot. They started screwing the model, right? Because they ran out of compute. And so rather than tell the market what's going on, they start to throttle you back. And so all of a sudden I'm looking at some code that it's producing and I'm like, it's producing what looks like code. And then when you look at it, it's not there. It's saying it did it and it's not there. And so what I loved about OpenClaw is that I own the harness, right? I can plug, as I say, I've got 9 different API connections, not even including Open Router. That's another connection I have that allows me to pull on Chinese models, European models, and US models as I see fit, but none of them own all my stuff. All my own stuff sits in Azure, all my own that whole DevOps team. I've changed the models behind various agents multiple times now, right? And the beauty is I don't have to reinvent my system, or I don't have to move the context out of one system and import it into another system because the context sits in my OpenClaw environment. And that's the power of the system. I don't care what models, I don't care, whose model is ahead at the moment because I will always have the latest models and I will always be able to switch them in and out to work on whatever, but I don't have to set context every time. Context sits with me.
Yeah. Uh, I think I
You
had a
don't want to
little
ask me
bit
that
bad
question.
connection, actually.
You,
Yeah.
that's all
Okay.
right. I can still hear you. You don't want to ask me about what I think about Copilot Studio.
Yeah.
It's not positive. I think Copilot Studio is an interim solution to try and gather up the low code audience and give them something, a bone, because I remember the day the predecessor, what Copilot Studio is built on, was released. And there's a blog post where I put a little chatbot on my site, um, this would be back in 2020, I would say, or 2019, the end of 2019. And the thing is, once again, I don't want a low code agentic platform. I want a prompt. I want English as the engagement or language as the engagement layer. I don't want to know, did I plug in the right API at the right time and did I put the right I just I hate the product. I think it's shite. I think it's a product that doesn't need to exist. People, if they want to build stuff, just go straight to Foundry and build there. Nowadays, get your AI skills up that you can just work directly with Foundry. You don't need an interim solution with a stupid monetization model in my mind in place. It's Microsoft once again fumbling to find relevance in this space with a solution. So you asked the question. Sorry about the answer.
No, no, no problem. So I'm a little bit more happy. I never have used Copilot Studio yet because I'm happy with AI Foundry. I also never see the reason what for this product. So yeah. Um, I think one topic, especially when we talk about agents, it's governance. How did you handle the governance stuff?
So this is a cool thing. Microsoft have got really strong governance content available. And so you can take that governance content that they have available and plug it into your system. You can say to your AI, go read this, understand it, and I want to implement that exact type governance framework in what I am building. And so y- governance is slightly easier when you're only one person, right? That's governing everything. I put very strict gates around what has to have my eyeballs on it. Um, well, like I don't let My open core environment, I built my only other open source product. I built a CLI into Microsoft Graph from
Mm,
OpenClaw.
mm, okay.
And I can access anything that's in the Microsoft Graph. And that means that I can do from OpenClaw posts into Teams. I can delete posts in Teams. I can send messages to people inside my organization in Teams. I can read all my email, read all my calendar. I've had that maybe for 5 months now, but I have never given it the skill to write an email. I've never given so in other words, I've given it the ability to create appointments for me. So what I do is I have my agents. My agents actually can create appointments with me when it has to present a concept to me, whatever agent it is. And so they go through. I have a main agent called Rook. So Rook is my personal, like my PA agent. So not all my agents get access to my diary or my M365 calendar. Only Rook does, and so if somebody wants a time in my diary from my agent team, they have to broker that through Rook. And so Rook has a whole bunch of operational rules around how it can set messages for me, what times of the day I do and don't take appointments. Um, I'll let it draft an email, but I don't let it draft an email inside of Outlook. I have it draft as to a markdown file, and then I copy and paste that markdown file into an email. And I'm a person that doesn't have a lot of email nowadays. I've run for over 10 years on a zero inbox principle in my business career. Something I learned from a book called Getting Things Done years ago. And so, because I have my email so optimized, like I don't get spam, I don't get newsletter emails because I have automations that automatically clean those out. They automatically put them into my folder called spam, and then I will then point the AI at that spam folder and say, "Is there any?" I don't even go look at it. I say, "Is there anything I need to be, identify in here?" And I let it handle that. So I believe that within 18 months, I won't have email anymore. I won't have a need for email in the traditional sense that sorry, let's change that. I will have email, I won't have Outlook, and I won't have replaced Outlook with another mail program. An agent will make me aware of any, email, and that same agent will, take a dictation from me, whatever, and send under my approval. Um, I will finally eliminate Outlook from my life, from me eyeballing Outlook.
mm. Um, what did you think about, um, I think companies do invest heavily in AI and data centers, and I think there's something coming new that's the NVIDIA hard development with Microsoft. So this, I think it makes 1,000 teraflops, and the new Windows should be in a minimum, I think 20 or 40 teraflops. It's the requirement for the next Windows system. Did you think we stronger in having AI on our own PCs in the future?
I'm convinced that AI is gonna move, mm, like, it won't move away from the cloud, right? AI will be, still will have optimization in the cloud, but what I do really believe, and I've run, models locally on I've got a high spec, NVIDIA card in my computer.
Mm,
Um, so I've run models locally, and I think that we're going to run to a world very soon, within the next 12 months, where AI will run locally. That will be as good as what the current frontier models are providing, but it will be local on device. And so I think compute on device and the ability to run on device as good as what the current, providers are right now. So I'm not gonna say they're gonna be as good as the day that you're running them locally as the model that we're running that day in the cloud, but I absolutely believe compute on the edge and AI at the edge will be, first class and i will be in all sorts of devices. I believe, my money is still, even though they've fumbled the ball badly, is that Apple will nail AI at the edge on their devices, and we will naturally see it on, on the PC as well, AI on the edge in time. And that will be a massive enabler of what's possible.
Mm. Yeah. What did you think for the people they starting now, like students or so? How will they prepare for the AI first career?
Okay, so they need to learn a couple of things. And prompt engineering's been around a long time, right?
Mm,
Prompt engineering is, if you're getting in now, you need to really set yourself up to get it good at prompting, but you need to move beyond prompt engineering. You need to get into context engineering, and you need to really understand what context engineering is about. And then you should probably take a third step and go into outcomes engineering, and understanding it. You need to understand first principles. You need to understand critical thinking. And when I say you need to understand it, you need to be trained on it. And you don't have to go to a fancy provider. Get AI to train you on these subjects. Get it to do space-based training. So in other words, you learn the same thing repeated over time, making the distance larger each time so that it bakes it into your computer up here. So those are the first things. The next thing I'd say, learn about harnesses. And you learn everything you can about harnesses and why harnesses are so, so important. The third thing I'd say, don't get vendor locked in. The day of, drinking just Microsoft Kool-Aid or just AWS Kool-Aid or Google Cloud Platform GPC, they're gone. Use whatever tool. Use all the tools. If you're got xenophobia and anti-China, sort that shit out. Like they're gonna win this race. Just watch the writing on the wall. They're gonna win this race, and the reason is they are getting better results on porous silicon at the moment, they're getting not better results, they're getting on par results with the people that have the best compute infrastructure and the best silicon in the world. So if they're doing that in inferior silicon, you wait till their fabs get up to speed and they're on par at the silicon layer. They're getting so much additional layers in their architecture right that I think, just like they overtook the solar industry globally, just like they've overtaken the EV market with electric vehicles and every other thing in manufacturing, they are going to be the model providers of the future. So if you've got some, thing, racism or anything like that about them, and you want to get locked into that type of thinking, good luck. But yeah, I definitely won't be, and I wanna know what the Chinese models are doing. I wanna know what, models are doing that are, predominantly now, I think, of France, coming out of Europe, and I wanna know what the American models are doing. And I
yeah.
I think, honestly, we're gonna get to the point where there's gonna be a lot of models that are much more refined on specific data sets, rather than just these big ubiquitous models that we currently have.
Biggest industry data in the world, but we don't use it really good. So I think yeah, we are doing too many compliance stuff around it and so on. And yeah, I don't know, it's feeling like uh, we have invented the wheel and the other built the cars,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. What I also would ask, you have renamed your podcast from the Intelligent Edge to the Microsoft Innovation Podcast. Has the Intelligent Age stopped? Get we all stupider through AI, or
So
why?
so the new podcast is called The Intelligence Age. The old one, the original podcast was the Microsoft Business Application Podcast, and then it became the Microsoft Innovation Podcast, and surprisingly, I've gone 8.5 years using Microsoft's name in a domain name and on a podcast and never been pinged legally by Microsoft, because if you look at that T's and C's, that's a no-no. You don't get to use Microsoft's name like that. And so it was actually um Claude that pointed it out to me. It said, well, one day, "Do you realize that you're in breach of Microsoft's legal thing by using their name like this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I've never been pinged." And it was just like, because so some of the things I do with AI is I look at risk profiles. How do I de-risk things in my life? I run a dashboard around what I call situational intelligence, which has nothing to do with the guy that just lost his shirt and with his situational intelligence company, like lost $42 billion or something this week, just passed. But situational intelligence is a security kind of posture, which I learned when I won this award with Microsoft years ago for crime, safety, and justice, and its ability to look at all factors going on in your environment and be aware of things that could become high risk to you. And
Mm.
so I was working with the Australian federal government at that time, and we were looking at, for example, camera feed data. Is this person and the way they're loitering, are they about to do something? We should track them from camera to camera just to be aware of what potentially is going on. But I go, okay, how do I do that in my own personal life? And so that's how this thing flagged that I potentially could be legally pursued by Microsoft. And so I was like, okay, let's back out using Microsoft's name before I get asked to. And then the other thing is that I wanted to talk about more than Microsoft. I wanted to have more than Microsoft's voice on my podcast. And I wanted to, you know, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've released 3 or 4 shows a week. And so that was a phenomenal amount of recording, logistics around scheduling, etc. Now, and I haven't even started the new podcast. It doesn't start till about 4 weeks time. I've only done my first load of recordings this week ready to launch. And I just recorded my first 6 episodes ready to go, but I'm only gonna release 1 a week. So I have, rather than mass producing podcasts, I am going down to, um, slightly longer podcasts, but really around things that deeply interest me. And if the world benefits from what deeply interests me, awesome. But I'm not like, one of the things in a conversation I have with AI often is I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be a value creator. And so everything that I do, podcasts, etc., is it creating value for other people? I will do it. I'm not trying to influence others. I'm trying to create value for others.
Yeah, and the value topic is it's good. Yeah, what value can we expect from the 90 days mentoring challenge?
Yeah, so the 19 mentoring challenge, like I've had a lot of people go through it. Of the people that have been on it, over 65 of them have become Microsoft MVPs that have gone through that program. I was running it all year round and it just became a hard slog for me. So I've run it once this year, January, February, March. That's run. I will probably release the next one in January, February, March next year. I'll do it
Mm.
once a year. And I've got percolating, and I mean, that 90-day mentoring challenge is designed explicitly for anybody with Dynamics 365 or their careers in Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform.
Mm.
And it is full on. It's not an easy, a light process, right? It's 12 weeks where every week you have detailed lab assignments and things to do. It's like, it's like drinking from a fire hose, that course. And it's been running since I think 2018 is when I launched that and ran it every year apart from 1 year. 1 year I was working at IBM and I was running that 90-day mentoring challenge internally for IBMers around the world. And I didn't want to and do it out in the market. So I've got, I keep getting people on the wait list for that. So that will carry on. I just refreshed all the content recently for this year, just because so much has changed. Um, Maybe I will release a 90-day mentoring challenge, maybe. It's a lot of work for me to do. My basically rule of thumb for every hour that I present in that 90-day mentoring challenge, I've spent over 12 hours getting to that 1 hour of output. And so I am considering doing one specifically on AI, which will be targeted at tech people that really want to become super proficient in AI consulting. So, but I don't know. I'm not. I'm fluctuating on whether I release it. Right now, I'm building software that I'm gonna release in the Microsoft Marketplace. I see there's gaps that I feel I can fill, so I've really gone down the what software can I create that's world class? I'm working with Microsoft internal stakeholders at the moment on that, having what I'm building architecturally reviewed and peer reviewed and things like that. So that's probably my focus at the moment is, what software can I build?
Yeah, this is awesome. I have a rapid fire round in every
Awesome.
session,
Love it.
so um, let us start short answers. And so, is there anything you say you will never be automated in the future?
No.
And what did you think is the
Oh,
biggest?
hang on. I do. Sorry, just switch. Spending time with my family and friends. I don't think that'll be automated.
Yeah, okay, cool. Is there one Microsoft product everybody should learn now?
I would say Copilot. Like, learn
Mhm.
it properly. Like, don't stay on auto. Learn about work IQ, the importance of it. Learn how to be really proficient in it. Make sure it knows your context super well. I think, yeah, there's a lot of runway for people as in if you're in a role that is an information worker role, not a tech role, you should absolutely learn that if you're in that what would be classified an information worker type role. Um,
And
yeah,
yeah, yeah. What did you think? It's better large language models or specialized language models?
right now LLM,
Okay.
small language models, SMLs, they will become more prominent, but right now LLM's where it's at.
What's the habit that make you so successful?
Curiosity.
Is there an AI myth you will bust?
Uh, that AI will become, Skynet.
Coffee, tea, or energy drinks during development?
I have been a massive energy drinker, like massive. We have an energy drink in New Zealand called V, and I love that stuff so much. Um, but I always start like I have my own barista machine. I have a proper coffee machine. I always probably drink 2 coffees in the morning before lunch. But yeah, I do it. I don't do energy now because of diet and health, but every now and again I let myself have one.
What is the best food everyone should try when they come to New Zealand?
Oh, if you come to New Zealand, you've got to try what's called a hangi, which is food that is cooked in the ground.
Okay, that's cool. Sounds interesting. And uh, Copilot or ChatGPT?
Depends.
Yeah. So thank you for staying here with me over an hour. So thank you so much for your time. And what will you say when people can yeah or what is the key takeaway from you from this session for the people should recognize?
AI is not going anywhere, and you need to do everything you can to be the best person in your place or the most knowledgeable, the most proficient, and really, knowledge does not replace skill. We have infinite knowledge. It's the people that can apply the knowledge that can say, "I've done it," rather than "I know it." There's a big difference.
And yeah, my last question is: you have so many guests on your podcast. Who should I invite to my podcast, and what questions should I ask?
Um, you should invite Charles Lamana to your podcast and get him to, based on everything he's seen behind the curtain, so to speak, where does he see the next 24 months to 36 months going in tech?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was a fantastic and really interesting conversation. So, Mark, thank you so much for joining me here on the MC65 FM podcast and sharing your experience across AI adoption, Microsoft technologies, OpenClaw, and yeah, software factories. and also the open words about Microsoft Copilot Studio. Yeah, I think we now understand what the intelligent age means and what's upcoming. And yeah, thank you so much. It was really cool, and I think yeah, thanks for listening. And you until next time, keep learning, keep building, and stay curious.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.